September 21st, 1972, Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law in the Philippines, plunging the country into debt and disaster, where many civil and political freedoms and guarantees were eradicated. Under his rule, around 70,000 people were arrested, 34,000 people tortured, and 3,250 people killed. These people were youth, students, peasants, workers, lawyers, priests, human rights advocates, all people who were fighting for the future of a country they loved, fighting for a Philippines that they hoped would one day be genuinely free. Today, we honor their legacy and continue their fight, even if, and especially because, we are thousands of miles away from our homeland. 4 days ago, on September 16th, Duterte extended a national state of calamity until 2021, further militarizing the government response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But more importantly tonight, at this vigil, we celebrate the lives lost under his regime, the lives of human rights activists like Zara Alvarez and Randy Echaniz.
Remember the sacrifices of our sisters and brothers in the name of peace and justice in the Philippines and even here in the United States.
As many of us know, the administration of Rodrigo Duterte is a U.S.-backed dictatorship, just like the Marcos regime was. The U.S. government gives hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid and arms sales to Duterte's regime, and this only furthers the suffering of the poor and working-class Filipino people. Under Duterte, tens of thousands have been killed and tortured, many of whom were organizers, activists, teachers, and also indigenous activists.
We demand that the U.S. stop funding the genocide of the Filipino people and demand that legislators pass the Philippines Human Rights Act. We must remain vigilant and organized against the fascist attacks that dehumanize people.
Throughout his life, Echaniz had fought against injustice and inequality, espousing the causes of the oppressed and underserved. During the 70s, he was a chapter president of the AnakBayan. He was arrested in 1983 and placed under solitary confinement in Camp Aguinaldo and Camp Aduru until 1986. During the EDSA People Power Revolution in 1990, he was arrested and tortured for a week before being transferred to a detention facility with his wife and 2-year-old daughter. They were released, and Echaniz continued his advocacy as a peace consultant. Echaniz was a loving husband, father, longtime peace consultant, co-architect of the genuine Agrarian Reform Bill, peasant rights activist, and chair of AnakBayan. In August 2020, at the age of 72, he was stabbed in his own home by police forces as he recovered from a chronic illness. Zara Alvarez was also murdered last month, August 17th. A devoted mother, paralegal, former chair of AnakBayan Negros, and member of Karapatan Negros Island. For years, she'd advocated on behalf of farmers and helped document the killings of farm workers by government forces. She was assassinated on August 2020 while she headed home after grabbing food for dinner. Here's a quote from her. "Still, one voice is a noise, but more voices is a voice of freedom. Soon we realize everyone are singing the song of the people, taking a stand to end political persecution and demanding justice to all victims of human rights violations. Time will come that no amount of fear can stop us in cultivating everybody's freedom." Randy Malaya was murdered January 30th, 2019. A former student activist and journalist, Randy was one of the peace consultants negotiating the Duterte administration. On January 30th, he was shot after falling asleep on a bus. When asked by a local newspaper on how he felt about the possibility of not living long enough to see peace achieved, he said, "You know, that's no longer important. It's what our nation really needs. My time will pass, but just and lasting peace won't. That's why it's called lasting peace, right?"
Good evening, everyone. This is a message
message written by Tita Nicanora Montenegro from Malaya Movement in San Diego. Subalit tayo mga Pilipino, gaano man kabuti ang ating kalooban at pagiging mapagbigay, mapagpakumbaba at matiisin, ay marunong ding lumaban para sa naaapi. Hindi kaya ng ating budhi na manatiling tahimik habang niyuyurakan ng ating kapwa at kababayan, lalo't lalo na sa paglaplastangan sa ating mga karapatan. Marami ang lumaban sa iba't ibang pamamaraan. Ang pamahalaang Duterte ay nagpapakita ng mga senyales ng diktadoryang pamahalaan. Papabayaan ba natin ito? Ayaw na natin ng martial law sa ating bayan, ayaw na natin ng diktadoryang pamahalaan.
We're here to not only mourn the deaths of those that we have lost, but we are here to honor their lives and to study what they struggled for, what they fought for, and to continue that fight. The hunger our people feel, the poverty, the exploitation that our people suffer from could be easily solved if foreign interests did not rule our country, foreign corporate interests. So we're here to honor the struggle of the people, of those we have lost today, who struggled for a truly free, truly democratic Philippines.
Right now, in the House, there is a Philippine Human Rights Act that has just been introduced. It would review any military funds or spending that are supposed to be sent to the Philippines so that it could not be used for human rights abuses. We need to make sure that Representative Juan Vargas is aware of this and supportive of this. We must support the Filipino people in the struggle of achieving a legitimate government and not one for the few oligarchs. This will take planning, action, and relentlessness in our support, but we must get to work. Thank you very much.